Long time no see. Hi, hello. I know I have been kind of not as present on my channel this month, and I have talked about this with a few people. December definitely is a more difficult time of the year for me. I am starting to notice that I struggle the most mentally in December. I do not feel as productive in December, and I feel very kind of overwhelmed in December because I think everything that has happened throughout the year has kind of caught up with me. And so I was talking to Bree from Lock Petition, and she was talking about how going forward she's going to start taking breaks in December. And I think for me, I may really start doing the same thing going forward in December. It's just kind of pulling back on content and engaging, but giving myself that mental break that I need. I haven't really been engaging with anyone. I haven't been watching booktube content. I have been reading, but I've been so focused on like me and making sure that, you know, I'm reflecting, I'm relaxing, I'm giving my body time to reset. That way, come January, I have that energy and the motivation that I need to make it through the year. And I think that, you know, hearing Bree kind of say that really did kind of help me process my feelings about what I've been going through in December. So it's great to see everyone. I hope everyone has been having great holidays. I know that the holiday season is pretty difficult for some people, so I wish you all the best. And if you are getting the opportunity to take a break, I'm hoping that you are relaxing, focusing on you, resetting, doing things that really make you happy. And so speaking of relaxing and reflecting and thinking about resets, I am here today to talk a little bit about my 2023 reading and channel goals, which it really, honestly, I'm looking down because I actually took the time to write stuff down. It's not a lot. It is things that I kind of reflected on from this year. This year was a interesting year for me in general. I started the year off with COVID. And it's a lot that's happened, a lot of good and a lot of not so good things. I have, you know, definitely gone through some stuff in personal relationships. I have grown, I have fallen, I've made mistakes, and I was able to finally buy a house for myself and my daughter. That was my biggest accomplishment, I think, for this year. Definitely the biggest accomplishment. So the year did not go necessarily as I pictured. It kind of took its own turn. And so looking back on my content and my reading, there were some things that I want to continue doing that I've been doing, and things that I want to go forward and change again, because I'm still trying to get my footing right. Even as long as I've been in this community, there's still so much for me to learn. There's so many ways that I can grow. There's always ways to improve content. And so that was my reflection. So I'm going to start off really quick and talk a little bit about my reading goals and a little bit of reflection on what happened this year in terms of my reading. I read to my heart's content this year. I read whatever I wanted to read. I read from my collection, not as much as I would like. I read a lot of library stuff. I really honed into my passion point for comics, graphic novels, and manga. I even started my own my own channel dedicated to that, which I will leave the link to that channel. A lot of people still don't even realize that I have that channel, but I started that channel, and I'm still trying to find my footing over there and figure out what I want to do in terms of content, which I have some things that I want to explore on that channel in the upcoming year. But I kind of read what I wanted to read, and it was overall a good reading year. I wasn't looking for a certain number of books to be read last year. My goal was to read 100,000 pages. Y'all, I am probably about 6,000 or 7,000 pages short of reaching 100,000 page goal count, which is, you know, it is what it is. I tried. This is the most pages that I have ever read since I started tracking my reading. And that makes me feel good that I was really looking at not just, you know, the number of books, but I was looking at the page count. And I say this with all sincerity, whatever you set your goal to be, whether you read 5 books, whether you read 600 books, like, I love that people are finding a passion in reading, more so now that I've ever seen it via social media. It's a lot more people engaging in reading, and that makes me and my librarian heart very, very happy. But I did not actually reach, and I don't see myself reaching that goal before the year ends, but that's okay. I did come really, really close. So with that being said, I know that next year I do want to jump in and once again try to reach that 100,000 page goal. It is harder. It is so much harder than what I thought it was going to be. I think that between me kind of losing my steam during the time in which I was moving really impacted how my numbers were going to turn out at the end of this year. I really literally read 2 books in August, and mainly what I was trying to do was read in between 8,000 to 10,000 pages a month. And in the time that I was looking for a house, which was extremely stressful, and buying the house, going through the process of actually buying the house, my reading definitely took a hit. So there were some external factors that contributed to that, and I give myself grace, and I always tell people, like, whatever goals you set, make sure you give yourself some grace with that. The second thing that I have on my reading plans for my reading goals for next year is to be intentional with my international reading, which is going to be through the Around the World Reading Project. The thing about this, and I keep telling people are like, Ashley, when is the video coming? I promise you the video is coming. I don't think I understood what I was stepping into when I decided to take this project on. It's not a matter of reading the books. It's a matter of everything else that I'm doing outside of reading the books. Like the food, the documentaries, the reading the nonfiction, learning more about the culture, the people, the history. It has become such an extensive project that it's not going to be something that I'm going to be able to release to y'all every month. It's just not realistic, to be honest with you. If I was reading nothing but that material, watching nothing but that material, engaging in nothing but that material, it would make more sense. But because I decided that I didn't want to just read a book for the sake of reading, I wanted to learn about the history of the country, the people, the culture, and engage in it more, it's going to take me longer, if that makes any sense. So my international reading is going to be very intentional through that reading project. I am hoping, fingers crossed, y'all, fingers crossed, I am working on it and I'm slowly making my way through. I'm hoping that that video will be out by the end of January. The first video will be out by the end of January. I also want to go back and explore some classics. Now, I'm not sure how I want to do this. I'm not going to say I want to read 1 classic a month, because the likelihood of that happening is probably slim, to be honest with you. I don't know if I can commit myself to reading 1 classic a month, because A, it has been a while since I've read classics, and B, it typically takes me longer, and I am very, very intentional about how I process and how I analyze a classic. That is education stuck in my head. I know that I can just read just to read. I'm so used to doing that I don't know how to remove myself from looking at classics that way. And once again, I want to be very intentional about the classics that I pick up. But I do think I'm doing myself a disservice by not reading more classics, because there's so much to be gained and learned. And I love that Bree, for example, has her Black Classics book club where she has been reading Black classics. I think definitely exploring more diverse classics would be something that I would be interested in, but I haven't decided how I want to frame this or how I want to do it just yet. I've been going back and forth between a couple of things, so for right now, we're just going to say that I want to be intentional about picking up a handful of classics next year, and we'll leave it at that. And the next reading goal that I have for myself next year is to deep dive more into my picture book reading in terms of documenting it, reviewing, and sharing on this channel. I read a lot of picture books and I don't document them. And I'm not just talking about picture books that I share with my child. I'm talking about for just me. Like in what I do for my job, I read a lot of picture books throughout the year. I just don't document them. And I feel like I'm kind of doing a disservice, not only to myself, but to y'all, because there are a few of y'all that have either messaged me on Instagram, or you have you know, commented on a video, or you've reached out to me somewhere else where you have literally asked me for picture book recommendations for little ones that you have in your life, whether they're your own, whether, you know, they're just family members or people that you're working with, or whatever the case may be. And I know that that is a content gap here in the community. Picture books definitely are not as talked about. I do follow creators who do read picture books, but I know that there is a significant gap in how many of us are actually doing it. And so I know that there are people who come to YouTube specifically looking for that content. And because I read so much of that content, I want to be able to provide that content. So I do want to do a better job about showcasing it. I was supposed to be doing that this year, and I am going to say I did not meet my goal and meet my mark on that. I didn't do it. And I don't know what that hiccup is. I've done discussion videos about picture books, and I've talked about picture books in wrap-ups or reading vlogs or whatever, but I think really making it a consistent part of my content is going to be extremely important. Speaking of, I think another thing that I want to do is place a greater emphasis on children's literature, because I also feel like there's a gap in that in terms of how many of us are talking about children's lit. So middle grade and children's lit are not the same thing. I think that sometimes people use them interchangeably. They're not the same thing. I think that all of it is considered to be youth literature or youth lit, but there is a distinction in the reading levels between a children's book and what would be targeted at like a middle grade reading audience. And so I want to once again pull back and focus more on the children's literature part that I haven't been doing as much, which includes a lot of those books that are targeted at like 2nd to 4th graders. A lot of those popular like chapter book series, like I'm reading Kina Ford right now, which is pretty popular. I want to make sure that I am showcasing that material as well, because once again, I know that there are some of y'all as viewers who are looking for those recommendations from me, and I want to make sure that I'm giving you as much balanced content as possible. Okay, so we're going to switch it over and we're going to talk a little bit about channel goals, which is interesting, y'all. You know, I've been a part of this community for such a long time, and it's amazing how your content can evolve. It amazes me a lot of times on how much you learn and grow from yourself over the years when you've been through this community or been a part of this community, and it's amazing watching how this community itself evolves. So I have a couple of things that I have been thinking about, which is going to give y'all whiplash, because you're like, Ashley, if you don't figure this shit out, and listen, I know y'all are sick of me. I'm sick of myself, okay? My wrap-ups have still been such a point of issue for me. I can't seem to figure out how to effectively provide y'all with the reviews that you like without it being taxing on me as a creator. And it's difficult. It's difficult finding that balance, because I tried and this is what's going to give everybody whiplash. So I tried doing the recent reads thing, which was great. I like doing the recent reads, which is nothing more than a weekly reading vlog where I am reviewing books as I go, instead of sitting down and filming 2-3 hour long videos and having to edit them at the end of the month, or even including a mid-month. It's a lot. But the issue with doing the recent reads is that it becomes more difficult for me to engage in some more of the creative vlogs that I want to do, because it's multiple vlogs going at once. And I realize with my work schedule and being a parent, I do not have the capacity to do multiple vlogs at once. It makes it very difficult on me. I did that in September. I was doing a recent reads and I was doing a banned book reading vlog, and it was too much. It was just way too much. And I realized that I'm like, I want to do the creative stuff, which also has been interfering. It had interfered slightly with my Around the World Reading Challenge vlog, because it was just so much clips and this and that. It was just a lot, and I really just don't have the capacity to do multiple vlogs at one time. I'm one of those people where it's like I need to do one vlog at a time and keep it at that, move from one project, finish it, then go on to the next project and finish it. And that's the way that I'm looking at these now. So what I'm going to do, and what you're going to see, is that on Sunday of this week, you are going to see the first weekly wrap up. I am going to do a sit down, or in my case, I'm standing up, but you get what I'm saying. I'm going to do sit down videos once a week where I'm reviewing and talking about the books that I have read for the month. I mean, for the week. It will allow me the flexibility that I need to do the more, and I'll tell you some of the vlog projects that I'm actually currently in the middle of. It will give me more time and capacity to do that while also providing y'all with the detailed reviews that you want. Speaking of reviews, I didn't say this in my reading goals, but I am going to be more intentional about my reviewing on Goodreads. I had such a backlog when I went and I looked at my Goodreads this week, this week literally. When I went and I looked, I had like 30 something books that I had not reviewed, some of them dating all the way back to July. That is a problem. It is a complete issue. I like to fully review everything that I'm reading, but I could not even do that this year because it was just so much stuff that I just had to link to the YouTube videos here. And granted, I know that it's people are technically getting the same information, but I know that people can have preferences on how they prefer to consume information. Some people really, really like the full written reviews as opposed to watching a video where they have to sift through everything to get to that one specific review. So I like to provide, even though it really doesn't vary much between my Goodreads written review and my YouTube video reviews, I do like to provide two different forms of content for people. So I want to be more intentional about when I finish a book, there is no starting something else until that review is written. And I think that's going to take a lot of discipline. It's going to take a lot of being intentional to set aside just 10 minutes to finish a review and come up with a format. I think I've changed my format now, how I review, where I will give my introduction, a summary, and then what I liked and what I didn't like, and we will call it a day. And it still gives me my feeling of writing a robust review without putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And Bree also gave me a great tip where, like, even using my voice, like using talk to text and using that to create kind of like the skeleton of the review, and then going back in and fixing and adding things as I need to fix and add things, which is a great idea. So that's going to be probably a major change that you're going to see to my content, is going to be how I do my wrap-ups. That's going to be one of the biggest changes that you'll see. I did want to make it a goal to start doing more creative vlogs. I think there are some content creators out here who do some amazing, amazing reading vlogs. Now, do I have the time and the capacity to do it on their level? Probably not. It's a little bit more difficult for me in terms of time, the time that I have working full time and being a mom. It makes things a little bit more tricky, but I do want to do more, let's say, thematic. So a couple of things that I am currently in the middle of working on, of course, you know, is the Around the World reading vlog. Also currently working on a banned book diary. I don't know, one of y'all commented this, and I wish I would have like screenshotted the comment, and I didn't screenshot the comment, and I don't remember who said it. Asked me on a banned books video if I could continue to highlight books that are being banned and challenged, because of the fact that it's not gonna stop and they're not gonna go away. And this must have been during the time that I did like reading banned books for I think 48 hours. I challenged myself to read as many banned books as I could in 48 hours, and I wanted to do something similar to that, but make it where it's one book at a time instead of multiple books, just focusing on one. So it would be a banned book diary. And so thank you to whoever asked me to continue to highlight these books and give me the idea and the motivation to do that. So I still wanted to do that. I still have that. I still have some ideas in terms of reading YA from different decades to kind of give people a broader knowledge and idea of how YA has evolved throughout the years and how it continues to evolve. So those are just like three things. Those are just three, and I have other ideas, but those are three that I'm just currently actively working on. I couldn't imagine doing that and working on a weekly reading vlog at the same time. It's just way too much. In terms of how many times I'm going to post a week. I think at minimum 2 times a week is what is realistic for me. I definitely can see at moments when I have a lot of energy, it's not much going on, where I could bump that up to more. But I think my standard for this channel needs to be 2. And I think that 2 as a commitment is really not that bad. It's not that difficult for me to handle and to manage. But I think trying to set a standard of doing more than 2 is where I start to falter. If I have that 2, which would be the standard weekly wrap up and then some other video throughout the week, that to me feels more, it feels more doable and it feels more realistic. I think this year for me, it's about setting realistic goals. I always have these goals and these ideas and I want to do so much, and then I get disappointed in myself when life happens. Like, I don't know what 2023 is going to bring. And every year, I'm sure for everyone, there are curveballs thrown in because we don't know what the year is going to bring. And that, you know, I just want to be mindful of that and give myself some grace. If I feel like I said, if I feel like it, if I have the time, if I have the energy, then I will do more than that. I also want to focus on doing more recommendation videos. I have gotten a lot of feedback. A lot of this stuff came from y'all's feedback, which I appreciate. I would like to do more recommendation videos because y'all trust me with recommendations. And I think that's something that I don't take lightly and I don't take for granted when I have viewers say that they trust my recommendations. That is a huge trust, that you believe in me to rec you stuff that you feel like you would like, or you're at least intrigued enough to pick it up and that there is a potential that you're going to like it. I don't know why I don't ever do recommendation videos. I don't know why. I've never been a big recommendation person, but that's my job. I think, to be honest with you, I think because being a librarian, I've done recommendations all the time. It's like every day doing reader's advisory, recommendations, that I just never thought about like channeling that into my content. Like, I've done it, but it's not something that I've done consistently. And so that's something that I do want to bring to the channel next year. Also, big thing, this is probably the biggest goal outside of any reading goals, anything else. This is the biggest goal for me. I want to continue to find that balance between content that I am passionate about and enjoy and content that I know is going to perform well. That is a very tough balance to find. I'm still not where I want to be with that balance, but I know it was something that I talked to or something that I talked about on my channel at the beginning of this year. Views for pleasure and views for reach. And it's hard because when you start doing stuff and you realize that it gets people going, you want to keep doing it because it's successful. But at the same time, is it something that you want to do, or are you doing it for views? And that is, I will be honest with you, I think I'm not going to sit here and lie like, oh, you know, I never thought about that. I've never thought about continuing to do something because I know that it performs well and it gets me more views. That's a lie. I would be lying to you if I said that. But I'm still trying to make sure that I'm finding that balance between the two, knowing that everything that I do is not going to, you know, get 4,000 views on it. You know, there may be some stuff that is only going to get a handful of views on it, but that they're still valuable. All of it's valuable content, but just trying to find that balance. It's tough. It's tough. It's really, really tough. And the last thing that I want to do, which I'm so nervous about, is exploring author interviews. I know plenty of content creators who have done author interviews, who are great at author interviews, that consistently do author interviews, and I struggle. I struggle with that because I get nervous. I've done author interviews for professional reasons, but not like on social media. And so I know that I can do it because I've done it, but it's very nerve-wracking as well, prepping for that and doing that on screen and stuff like that. And my author interviews, I wanted to focus more on youth-based literature author interviews than adult, for a host of different reasons, but we'll see if I can make that happen next year. All right, y'all, that was a lot of me talking, and I'm done talking. Let me know in the comments below what your 2023 reading goals are. If you are a creator, let me know what you're doing for, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on Bookstagram, whether you are here in the booktube community, community. Let me know what your content plans are. I'm really interested. I always get interested in people's reading goals. Like, what are you looking forward to the most next year? As always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. If you're interested in following me on social media or supporting the channel, all the links will be down in the description box below. And I will be back with another video soon. Toodles. A lot of Mickey Mouse.